we thought we were hard. Richard Sherman and Tony Gonzalez just wiped him off the face of the earth and said Tony Gonzalez is in the Hall of Fame. Richard Sherman, I'm sure, is headed to the Hall of Fame. They want no parts of Russell Wilson in the Hall of Fame. Let's play the clip.
And then that resurfaced clip of Malik Neighbors saying that the quarterback last year with Daniel Jones wasn't the problem. So when you look at this Russell Wilson situation, Tony, he says he's got a lot more football left in him. Okay, he's going to say all the right things. Do you think we've seen the last of Russell Wilson?
Honestly, I hope we have. And I say that because I just looking at him and his career, his legacy, like you talked about, if ever there was somebody who played himself out of a Hall of Fame, it's Russell Wilson.
Really?
And I say that because look at what's happened ever since he left Seattle. When he was in Seattle, he was the man. He was making these good plays. He won a Super Bowl, went to 2 of them. But as soon as he left there, he went to Denver, signed that big old deal. They paid him $39 million to leave. He goes to Pittsburgh, plays there 1 year. He's out of there. Now he goes here and has 3 games. I just don't know if it's going to get any better. And I don't want to see him on a sideline holding a clipboard.
So you're very much under the what have you done for me lately thing in taking away the first, decade of his career.
Absolutely. And I just don't think he's done himself any favors since he left Seattle. And I don't know, how's it going to get better? I don't know. So
I agree. I agree. I think you got to judge his career off when the Legion of Boom was there. He had a legendary defense, an all-time defense, and how much success he had. And then without that legendary defense, the success he had. Without that legendary defense, he's been 4-11, 7-8. 0-3 to start with the Giants. He was a winning football player in Seattle, and people said, hey, winning is football player, all this good stuff, all these accolades, and now you get to go on your own and you get to prove, hey, I'm this great quarterback. I'm this guy that's going to be dominant, and it just hasn't worked out that way.
All right, we will leave that right there because this discussion could go on and on and on. But
Couple things I want to say here before you guys pile on Russell Wilson again, like Tony Gonzalez and Richard Sherman. Is one has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I got to give Amazon's pregame and postgame show. It's the best in football.
Yes.
And I can't believe I'm saying this. It's hosted by a woman, Carissa Thompson. It's one of the stars of it is Richard Sherman, who I don't like. The quarterback they have on there didn't ever play in a game of any significance. But this crew is, if I had to watch a pregame show, a halftime show, a postgame show, love this crew. And so, Steve, I know you and I like to talk about broadcasting crews or whatever. This is the closest thing that the NFL has to the NBA studio show, TNT's, now ESPN's NBA studio show. I love this team.
And obviously, Sherman would be Charles Barkley with his outspokenness. And the other guys would be Kenny the Jet. And then Ernie Johnson would be Clarissa. I don't know how she feels about that comparison. But again, they're point guard. I don't disagree with that. Now, Jason, couple of things here. I have my suspicions. Tony Gonzalez might be a closeted fearless viewer. Because what he said about playing himself out of the Hall of Fame and how it started so well, someone said that a couple days ago. That was you. Tony, come out of the closet. It's okay to admit it. May hurt your career. You might get fired. Maybe not, don't admit it. Just keep watching. Drop a like and subscribe. Now, the other thing. Here I
Let me add this, Steve. Hold on. Let me add this. Tony Gonzalez mentioned me during his Hall of Fame induction deal. He tells a famous story that I motivated him. He had a bad rookie season, and I ripped him in the Kansas City Star, and that was the turning point of his career. So I don't think Tony's taking his talking points from me, but maybe he is. But
I don't know.
It's a great
Second of
show.
all,
It's a great show, but go ahead. Yeah.
here I thought the greatest bridge-burning Sherman was the general back after the Civil War in Atlanta. No, it's Richard Sherman. Oh, and it's clear there are lingering feelings, but I want to say this about the Legion of Boom and about that blown Super Bowl. Everyone talks about that pass that Malcolm Butler picked off. Terrible call, terrible pass. But can we actually bring up the fact that the Seahawks had a 2-possession lead against the Patriots in the fourth quarter, and the Legion of Boom could not get a stop? That was also a part of that story that is not talked about enough.
I think Richard Sherman's comments accurate.
Self-serving.
But self-serving. He's trying to hype up the Legion of Boom and his own legacy and the legacy of those guys. And I get why he's like, man, if we had won a second Super Bowl, if that defense had won now we can put ourselves in a conversation with the all-time great defenses, but we only have one. And everybody loves to pick on Russell Wilson. He threw the interception, but Pete Carroll called the play, and Malcolm Butler just made a tremendous football play. I don't have a problem with the call. I don't have a problem with the way Russell Wilson threw that ball on that Super Bowl. But his complaint, I think he's a tiny bit unfair in terms of, hey, man, Russell Wilson, yes, he had a great defense, but he threw those passes. He was the quarterback during that 9-year stretch when he was really good in Seattle, and it's hard to take that away from him. But Richard Sherman wants that Legion of Boom defense to be regarded as an all-time great, and he thinks that somehow Russell Wilson is the reason they're not getting that credit.
Yeah, I think he just probably personally doesn't like Russell Wilson. It sounds like that to me. I think he's made that clear in other times anyway. Anybody who knows anything about football knows that was a mesh route. You throw that blindly. Like you throw the ball before you even know what's going on, assuming and knowing the play is going to work. That's your job as a quarterback. So if you want to blame anybody, blame Pete Carroll, who's taken credit for that.
Blame the wide receiver. No one talks about, and right now I can't even think off the top of my head, who was the wide receiver?
Might have been Baldwin.
You got to get inside. You can't let Malcolm Butler beat you to that ball.
True, but you also, the way they run that, there's never anybody there. You know, it's a thing where so anyway, Butler did everything perfect. It's really one of those things. I have trouble blaming anybody on that. But I get what he's saying, because what Richard Sherman would be preaching otherwise, and he can't really do it now because of this, is, do you remember the Super Bowl we did win? It was against the greatest offense in history, and we dominated them. It was Peyton Manning's 2013, and where he scored 55 touchdowns.
Greatest offense in history.
At the time, statistically.
Greatest offense in, what year is this?
Denver Broncos, 2013.
This is after the Greatest Show on Turf with Kurt Warner.
No, I agree with you.
Marshall Faulk.
Statistically, this is where Peyton Manning came in and his arm hadn't fallen off yet, and they didn't win that Super Bowl. This is the year that Welker was there, and they had Demaryius Thomas, and they had Eric Decker was here, and they set all the records. This is that offense. And they got destroyed in that Super Bowl by Seattle and that defense.
Gotcha.
That's what Richard Sherman would be talking about. Instead, all he can talk about is the interception. That should be the Legion of Boom legacy. But it's not.
But guys, they had a chance to close the door. They had a chance to close the door in the fourth quarter. They had 2 drives. Or get a stop, you win. They didn't. Tom Brady went bing, 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 bing. All-time great defense, huh? Okay. They had 2 chances to close the door. They didn't. You should talk about that a little more. Couldn't get,
That Seattle defense held that the 2013 season, 2014 Super Bowl. They won 43-8. It destroyed them. They could be talking about one of the greatest defenses of all time. He's upset that we don't talk about them the way we talk about the Ravens defense. Because we don't. The Legion of Boom, even in our discussion this morning, we're like, what is the Legion of Boom? Is it just the back 4? Did they later include everybody? We can't even get their nickname straight because they didn't end up doing enough and winning enough to become the Steel Curtain.
Well, Richard Sherman also just, if he has a second Super Bowl, his individual, play as a cornerback, and he was the leader of that defense. His argument is like, hey, there's been all-time great defenses, and they're all led by a middle linebacker, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. You go to the 85 Bears, it's Michael Singletary. You go to the 2000 Ravens, it's Ray Lewis. You go to the Steel Curtain, it's Joe Green and Jack Lambert. Jack Lambert was their middle linebacker. You go to the Purple People Eaters, that's 4 defensive linemen. You go to the no-name defense with the Miami Dolphins in the 70s, that's Nick Bonacani. He's the only one. Richard Sherman could have been from the cornerback position in terms of making his case to be in an argument for all-time great corners, all-time great defensive players. He gets that credit if the Legion of Boom has a second Super Bowl and maybe a third appearance. And he's taking pot shots at Russell Wilson that Steve is making the argument, hey, man, maybe you should look in the mirror. And you guys had a chance to stop these guys twice, and you didn't do it. And you know, Malcolm Butler put you to sleep.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.